Good evening and welcome back to our weekly question and answer series for Anash.org. Question: if I send Mishloach Monas in a plate or cup, do I need to toivel it? And can I toivel it? What if I send it to a non-from Jew? When a person sends Mishloach Monas in a new keli, which is not toiveled, for instance, he sends a cup and he puts in candies inside, or a plate and it has cake on it. There's a big suffolk question between the poskim if the person who gives the mishloach munas with the cup or plate can toivel that kli or not. Because since he sends this keli for someone else, so for him, this kli, this cup or plate is like a plate which is made to not to use, to give for someone else or to sell it, which is miyad l'schoirem. So basically, a cup or plate which is not made to use, only made someone else to use it, should buy it or get it, he will use it. It's not mechiv b'tefillah for the person who gives it. So there is an option of being mazaka. You give it to someone else, he should pick it up for the person which you are going to send it. So since it is a schia, it's a good thing for him that it is toiveled. So that I could toivel it for him because it's already his. Because someone else picked it up and was koine for him. But Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach in Minchas Shlomo Heilig Beisim Samach Vuf questions this idea of giving if someone else should pick it up for the person for whom you send it. Because it is a question if that person will use it. Maybe he will also send it for a third person because he has this kli. He doesn't have what to do with it. So how could you be toivel this, especially with a bracha, because that person which you are going to give it for him it's a schia, it's a good thing, maybe he doesn't need it, so he's going to send it further. So he doesn't like this option. But another side, there are some poskim which say that you could toivel it, because there's a issa v'heter, which is brought down in Shulchan Aruch in Yeridaya, Hilchas Tvilas Kailam. The issa v'heter holds that even a kli which is made to be sold, that means a storekeeper could toivel a plate or a cup which he has in store, although he sells it and it's not made for him to use, but since it's his and he could use it if he wants, so you could toivel it. The poskim do not pass like the isveter, but we have such a isveter. So in such a case, when it comes to sending mishloach munas in a cup or a plate for someone else, it is a big problem. What are you going to do? So the poskim say that you should send this cup or plate and do not put food directly into this cup. You could put it only if it's in a bag. Then you could put it in the cup, but don't put any food in that cup. Because after all, some person will say that once you put in stuff in this cup, you have to toivel it because now it's used for food. So therefore, the best thing will be send the cup, send the plate, but don't put food on it. And if you want to put on it, put the food in a bag, and the bag put in the plate. So in such a case, it's not toiveled, and you don't use it without toiveling either because you don't use it directly with the food. And you tell for the person which you're giving it, it's not toiveled, he should toivel it. And he can toivel it with a bracha regularly. That's if you send it to a person which is from. So then you could tell him it's not toivel, then he will toivel it. And in order you shouldn't go into problems, you don't use it directly with food. But if you send it to a person which is not a shomer Torah mitzvah, it's not a from person, and he won't toivel that kli, so then it is kedai that the person which gives it should toivel this kli without a bracha, because after all, some poskim say that this kli does not need to be toivel, so therefore you cannot make a bracha, but still toivel it, and put direct food into the cup. So therefore, now you use it for food, and according to some poskim, it is mechi b'tefillah, because now you use it directly with food, and then you could send it for that person. So to sum it up, if you send it for a person which is from, don't toivel it. Do not put food directly on that kli and send it for the person and tell him it's not toivel, he should toivel it. If you send it for a person which is not from, then toivel it without a bracha. Put in food which is directly in contact with the plate, and at least according to the poskim which say that you could toivel a kli even if you send it further, and according to the other poskim which say that at least now that you use it for food, it is mechi b'tefillah, so at least you're at least toiveled it for according to that poskim. Question: is it okay for a girl to wear pants under a skirt as part of a Purim costume? We know the Remu in Siman Tufrash Tzadik Vuf Siv Ches says that the minig that people put on costumes on Purim, and there's a minig also that men dress like women, and women dress like men. And it's not a problem since it is only for simcha. It's not, the kavan is not to mingle with each other. And the Remu finishes V'yesh Omram so Asr. Some poskim say it's Asr, but the minig is like the first psak that you could do it. That's the Remu's psak. But the Bach in Yeredai Sim Kif Pai Bais, and the same is also the Tirzuov agrees with the Bach in Yeredai over there, Sifkut Ndala, the Bayra Goyla, and a bunch of other poskim disagree with the Remu and says you cannot do that. And they bring a raya from the Yerayim Simcha Tzadik Vuf, which says clearly that even for Simchas Chos V'Kala, which is a bigger Simcha than Purim, even then you cannot change your dress code from a man to a woman. And so obvious Kolshken, Kal V'Choymer in Purim. And this is how most poskim hold, not like the Remu, like the Bach, and this is the Shlu, the Knesset Gdoila. It's brought down in Mishnah Brira also in Tuf Kif, Tuf Rash Tzadik Vuf, Sifkut Lamat. So we don't agree, we don't pass like the Remu, and we don't allow to dress a man like a woman like a dress. Now, although all the year round we are makbet of the Isser of Lasilbash, also for small children, because the adults are mechiyev to make sure that they don't dress a child and he's over a Lasilbash. But in Purim, the poskim say you could be lenient for small children. That means under bar mitzvah, especially if it's not totally dressed. It is only like one dress. It's not like a man dresses it fully like a woman and a woman dresses fully like a man. It is only one dress, like the pants. Therefore, and all of the clothing are regularly. Therefore, you could be lenient. But still, hamach martul bruche even on this too. So to answer your question, for a child under bar mitzvah, you could be lenient if he doesn't dress fully like a man. Just she wears pants. But amach martul bruche, if you could avoid it, it's for sure better. Question. Would it be permitted to dye a boy or man's hair for Purim dress up? I assume that ordinary there can be a question of Lasilvash gave Similishishah and possibly Chikis Agoim. How would this play out in Purim? And the poskim bring down this question, and they say that if you do it only for Purim and right after Purim you change it back, you could be lenient and be matter. But Tzirev also we have a Ramu which the Ramu says that if you do it for Simchas Purim you are permitted. Now, although we don't pass like the Ramu as we mentioned before, but over here that you do it only on Purim and you take it over right after Purim, you could be lenient. You could see in Sefer Oili Yankov on the Hilchis LaSilbash, page 37, Os Mem, which he brings down the poskim which agree that you could be lenient for Purim. Question: our shul makes every year a communal party, Purim Suda, in the shul. Can a Oval Rachman al-Islam eat at that Suda with the rest of the community? If it's after Shloishim, that means a person which is a Oval Rachman on his parents. If he's a Oval on his siblings, then after Shloishim is not an Oval anymore. But even if he's a Oval on his parents, if it's after Shloishim, he could be mishtatev in the communal Purim Suda. Because it's this famous Shal Shiva Zekana Harden, Simmer Raishid Gimel, is brought on a Kafachayim, in Tufrash Tzadik Vuf Sivkut Chavov, that a person which is a Oval Rachman al-Islam on his parents, he could make the Sidus Purim with his Bnei Bayis. Why? Since Sidus Purim is considered a Sidus Mitzvah, and the Oval is Mechiyav in Purim with all the mitzvahs of the day, and part of the mitzvahs of the day is a Sidus Marayim, as the Baal Haitev writes in Tufrash Tzadik Haisiv Kuten Tez, there's the Chiyav Asida is that you should sit together with your family and friends and eat the Suda. So therefore, yes, you could eat with the family, with the community, the Sida of Purim. Now, even if it's not in your house, it is in someone else's house, for instance, in this case in Shul, you could eat by that Suda. And this is how it's brought down in Divrei Soifrim, Simashin Tzadik Aleph, Sifkut Lamed Dalet. And even if a person which does not go to a communal Sidus Purim every year, could also do it. Kolshkin, a person which does it every year, it's not a problem, and he could go to such a Suda. And this is also how it's passed in the Badi HaShulchan, Simashin Tzadik Aleph, Sima Bai Sifkut Chuf Tes, that he could be mishtatev. And some poskim say even that he could be mishtatev even if there is music over there. He doesn't have to leave because there's music. Question: am I yoytze the mitzvah of Mishloach Munas if I'm over bar mitzvah and give it to someone on the bar mitzvah? The Urich HaShulchan in Sima Tufrash Tzadik Hai Sif Yid Ches has a question if you're yoytze or not. And he thinks the question is if it says in Mishloach Munas Ish L'Rei Hayi. The Megillah says you should send Mishloach Munas L'Rei Hayi. So his question is if a cotton is also B'chlal Re'ayi. And he says yes. And therefore you are yoytze to send it also for a cotton, because a cotton is also B'chlal Re'ayi. And he brings it a raya from the Gemara in Bava Kama Lamates Aleph, which the Gemara says, the Pasuk says, if a axe of a person injures an axe of Ra'ayi, your friend, then he has to pay. And the halacha is that even if the axe belongs for a cotton, for a child, you still have to pay. So we see that Shorei is included also an axe from a child. This is the Orach HaShulchan what she says. But the Ben Ish Chai in Purim Siftei Zayin says clearly that you cannot send for a child. Because it says Mishloich munas ish l're'ai, and re'ai is only an adult and not a cotton. Matunas levyoinam, he says you could give even for a cotton, but Mishloich munas is only for a godly. It doesn't say because re'ai is only for a godly, but this, since it says that you cannot send for a cotton, we see that he holds that re'ai means only an adult. And the Moed L'Chol Chai, Reb Chaim Palagi, Simon Lamed Aleph, writes clearly that you cannot give Mishloich Munas for a cotton because he's not B'chalal Ra'ayin. The Pasuk says you should send Mishloich Munas for your friend. And it brings a whole bunch of other poskim, Megiri B'holchu, Ikrei Adat, Pais Oivet, Kisaliui, a whole bunch of Pashkulish hold that you cannot give for a cotton. So therefore, to answer your question, since most of the poskim hold that you cannot give a mishloich munas for a child, then you should not give it for a child. Question: is it permitted for men to listen to woman's lecture on tape or CD? The Rambam in Perikhov Aleph of Esir Bia Locha Gimel writes, when he gives all the things which a man is not permitted to see, he says also, it's also also, it's not permitted for a man to hear koil erva, to listen to a voice of woman which is a erva. The Rambam says koil, it doesn't say koil zimmer, singing, it says koil. So it means any koil, even speaking, it is a problem. And this is pashtus, which the Gemara says in Kedushin, Daf Ayin with Aleph, which over there, the question is, a woman should answer how she feels. If a man asks how you feel and she answers, so the Gemara asks, doesn't Shmuel hold kol be'isha erva? How could you ask someone else how she's feeling? It's kol be'isha erva. And Rashi says, since she's going to have to answer, you're going to listen to her voice, and therefore, it is a problem of kol be'isha erva. The interesting that the Kol Boy in Simon Mem Hai brings down one of the Rishonim, which says one of the reasons why women are not permitted to learn the Megillah on Purim, because they have to read it, and kol be'isha erva. And you see a long tshuva of the Bachabar of the Bar Sheva, which in Simon Gimel, he writes over there that a lady, which is Yireh Shamayim, should make sure that you shouldn't hear her voice, not singing, and not anything else. She should be, basically, her voice should be closed, and her mouth should be closed, and we shouldn't hear her voice, because men should not be nishal through her. That's the one side of the coin. But if you look in Pashtus, the Sigim Mesechtes Megillah, you see that this is not the reason why women cannot read the Megillah. The reason Pashtus is als Kvod HaTzibur. And this is how the Rabbi Yoina writes clear in Mesechtes Bruchos, that only when a lady sings, that's kol be'isha erva. When she talks, it's not a problem of kol be'isha erva. And therefore, you could listen to a lady talking when she doesn't sing. And this is the psak of most poskim. The Mugdan Vrum, Siman Ayin Hai, Sif Kuten Vov, the Beis Shmili Nevenezer, Simchuf Aleph, Sif Kuten Dalet. And this is the actual psak which we go, that kol be'isha erva is only when she sings and not when she talks. So basically, there's not a problem of listening a lecture from women on a tape or on a CD. But in Shal Shiva Shaivet Alayvi, Chayle Gimel Siman Yidalet, he makes a chilik. He says, listening to a woman just talk, it's not a problem. But when it's a lecture or it's a speech, if it's not in Yunishal Mitzvah, then you shouldn't listen. Because since when you give a speech, you act it out, you lower your voice, you higher your voice, you talk in a way that it should be appealing to people. So therefore, he wants to be a machmer, listening to lectures or speeches from women. And this is also how the Chivas Osnizberi Siman Ein Aleph writes. There should be a machmer that women should not speak in front of men, because it says anything which is not regular talk goes into the gather of kol beisha erve. And therefore, when you're making a speech, it's not a regular voice, and therefore you should be machmer. But in Igris Moshe, or Chaim Chayleg Hai Simen Yid Bais, he says clearly that it's not a problem. Women should lecture, and a man should listen to women when they lecture. But it has to be boyfriend shel tznius, and the lady should sit, and it shouldn't be on a regular basis, only bakroi, and it shouldn't be in a shul. But overall, it's not a problem for a man to listen to a lecture from a lady. And this is also how the Menashe Klein writes in his Sefer Oimani Choyma, which first he wants to say that some people, some poskim, say it's also to listen to a shir, and he says some are lenient, and letzoyrech, you could be Michael. This is what he says. So in the same is also in the Hoyres Nusen, Chaylik Aleph Simates, also paskins that listening to a speech, if you are not concentrating in the beauty of the voice, and it doesn't bring any kirva das, then it's not a problem of listening to a lecture from a lady. If a person has in mind, he likes the lady's voice, and he has a hanodefin, that's a problem. That's already a iser, as the Chayudim states clearly in Klal Dalat Halacha Vov, that talking from a lady is not a problem, but if you have kavanah to enjoy her voice, that's also. So to answer your question, it's not a problem according to a lot of poiskim which hold that you could listen to lectures from women on a CD, on a tape. If you are not have kavanah to enjoy the voice, you don't listen to it because you like the voice, just because you want to listen to the shir, to the content of what she's talking, then it's not a problem to listen. Before I finish, I want to just tell a story which I wasn't planning to say it, but since it leaked out, I said it for 2 people, and when it leaked out and it went viral, I just wanted to share it with people over here too. A few weeks ago, I spoke regarding the shala of women wearing leggings. And I got this question from a mechaneches in a school, which there's a big Lubavitcher community, which they have Lubavitcher Rabbonim there too. So when she asked me the question, I was thinking, why do I need to answer this question when there is Rabbonim over there, which basically could also paskin and Choshev Rabbonim. She should ask the Rabbonim over there, why do I need? I was out not living over there, why I need to answer this question? But I decided, let me go over this sugya and see Pasht Halacha, what is the Halacha. So I took out all kinds of Svarim, the Shulchan Aruch and Svarim, and I took also out the book which is called Kvuda Bas Melech, which is basically the first book which came out on Tznius from a Lubavitcher man, a Choshev man, Rabbi Moshe Wiener, which I assume a lot of people over here which listening to us now know him. And he gave out the first book before Oizvu de Levisha. The first book on Tznius he gave out with the encouragement and pushing of the Rebbe. So when I took out this sefer, in the middle of or beginning of going through the Sigya, when I was debating if I should answer this question or not, a paper slipped out from the cover of my Kvuda Bas Melech. And the paper is a copy of the answer which the Rebbe writes to him, quote, Mahir, fast, you should give it over to him fast. As I mentioned to you in a couple of times underlined, Chaval al kol yoim shemis'akeves kriyas v'limat tzayfer zeh. It is a pity for every day which goes through and this sefer is not published and people cannot learn in it. It is a chaval. And therefore, you gotta print it and bind it quickly. V'yufishu achas koidim. And then the Rebbe writes, Metzirev b'zeh, I am attaching to you ishtatzvus to be able to publish and print the sefer faster. So this is the answer which the Rebbe writes to Kvivas Melech. That means, why are you pushing off publishing and printing this book? It is so important. And I said, wow, this is the answer which the Rebbe wrote to me. Don't be hesitant. Write and say your answer are leggings. And that's why I answered this question on Anash.org. So basically, from this, I see, as I saw it a lot of times, as the Rebbe said, when you go and ask for the Rebbe guidance, the Rebbe wird haben sein Weg how to answer you. The Rebbe will have his ways how to answer you. And this is how the Rebbe answered me on my question. Thank you for joining us. Please join us again. And send any questions to inbox@anash.org. Good evening, and have a very happy Simchas Purim and a Simchas Tumit.